Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning La Land, starring in The Price of Fame, coming out later this month on the Reels, as George Michael. Casey Dolkas is in the house. Thank you for being with us,
Of course.
Casey.
Thank you guys for having me.
I've always wanted to meet George Michael, so good to be here.
Yeah, I'll do my best. There's a lot to live up to. But like I said, this is I wish I could start every week like this. It's a great way to start the day. And funny enough, I knew Frankie from the club days. So it was good to catch up briefly, yeah.
Was it one of the best parties you've been to?
Oh my God, yeah, he's the best. He was known, for throwing the best parties. So much respect for that because it's not easy. He makes it look easy and it's not. So
what's been your journey though in Hollywood to getting this incredible role where you get to play an icon?
Yeah, I know. No pressure. I grew up as an actor. It's always been the only thing I've ever wanted to do my entire life. Dedicated my life to it. I started when I was professionally when I was young, about 8 years old. I begged my parents to drive me to auditions. Fortunately, they were down for that and kind of wanting to support that dream in that way. Worked a lot when I was a kid, and national commercials. Got my SAG card when I was 9 years old, so at a young age.
Wow.
And yeah, just very motivated and driven in that way. And then continued, studying, more professionally. I went to USC, studied theater there, and minored in cinema and television to, stay within the industry. And then, just been hustling ever since. So.
Wow.
It's so funny though, because people always say you were an overnight success. Really, this was like 20 years in the making.
Oh yeah, my
Right.
God, and definitely not overnight.
Right.
A whole life in the making, really, and still going. I'm still definitely plugging away at it. So yeah, I mean, it's the funny thing is, the older I get, the more I have respect for it and love it, and have so much love for my parents for allowing me to do that and supporting the dream in that way. And yeah, I mean, and hopefully now it's just work turns into more work and keep going.
So tell us about the series.
Yes, so the show is called The Price of Fame, and it's on Reels channel. It's a docudrama, so each episode is focused on a different celebrity's life. So they've had Prince or Michael Jackson or things like that, and so this episode is George Michael. And I fortunately get to play George from late teens to early 30s.
Wow.
So it's a big span, which was super fun in terms of wardrobe and hair and makeup to go from kind of late 70s into 80s and 90s. So that was a blast. And so the format of the show, they'll be interviewing people from his real life. So the manager of Wham, the real gentleman, he'll be interviewed, kind of telling personal stories, same as either like a backup singer or saxophone player from his band, and they're kind of portraying these actual stories, and then there'll be archival footage of George, and then they'll kind of flash back to pieces of his life, which is where I come into play.
What were some of these flashbacks that you got to recreate?
Yeah, so all the way back from when he first started out in the band Wham, and that's kind of how he rose to this fame. So there might be a scene where we're trying to write Club Tropicana, which was a
So
huge
great.
hit, or on set filming the music video of Club Tropicana, and then of course it dives into a little bit of the dark as well, in terms of him battling with fame and his sexuality, and later in his later years, an older gentleman who plays George so beautifully. He's actually a George Michael performer in the UK.
wow.
So he was flown out from London, and he was the real deal. So watching him, I was like, obviously I didn't have scenes with him, but to see him perform and sing and speak like George, I was like, oh my God, I have a lot of time. But he was amazing. So yeah, so we definitely dives into the positive parts of his life and then also his struggles.
Right.
But you just learn that he really is. I learned so much about him. I knew about him a little bit before, and of course being some fans of his music, and my girlfriend was a big fan, so that was a big help. But the more I learned about him, the more I felt more pressure, just
Right.
because he is such a beloved individual and so extremely talented as a musician and as an artist, and what he did within the music industry. So it was a lot to learn and a lot of fun.
So
Would you-
what? Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Go.
What did you love so much about George Michael? What do you love?
About George, so I would learn obviously his kind of dedication in his craft and his artistry, and being a singer, songwriter, writing his own music, playing instruments, all different styles of music. He broke barriers in terms of stepping out into like this R&B type of music, and he was nominated in R&B categories, which wasn't a thing back then. And honestly, he kind of rose to fame so quickly, and it happened so fast that by the time he kind of wanted to break out into his second solo album, he kind of was like, I want this to be about the music, not about my image. And the record label didn't, agree with that, because at that time, you were the face of the music video, and it was the Freedom 90 video. He's like, all right, fine, I will do a music video, but I'm going to hire, the top hottest supermodels of the time to be singing my lyrics instead of me, because he just wanted to be about the music. But I think one of my favorite things, after he passed, everyone learned that he would donate, a great deal of money to different charities. He once, tipped a waitress who he found out was in nursing school, and nothing with his name attached either. So all these donations that he would give to different charities, he just wanted to do anonymously. So
Wow.
yeah. So the more I learned about him, the more I just
So
realized.
what do you think the price of fame is?
Yeah, so that's what the show taps into, kind of the trade there. And George is a perfect example of that because he did want it to be about the fame. He wanted that stardom, and he, of course, had the talent to back it up. But with that, came some of the dark struggles, which the show taps into. So I think, it is that balance. I don't know it yet, but from what I study and from what I learn, it is that kind of trade. And as long as you kind of keep the balance, I think,
But Casey, it begs the question though, what is the price of fame for you? You are in this pursuit to be a well-known actor.
Right.
Are you willing to make a sacrifice, and what are you going to compromise?
I am. I think it's who you surround yourself with. I'm so fortunate to have, such a strong family and my best friends and close friends who all support me in this crazy journey and this crazy dream. So I think that really, and definitely they will keep me grounded, knock me off my high horse if they need to. So I think that is so much of it. At the end of the day, I do love the business and the industry, but I love the craft and the art as well. So to kind of marry the two, and I've been lucky to have that kind of good balance in my studies and education and support system.
Such a good point. It's so important to love what you do in addition to loving what it does for you.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's in my blood. It is. I'm not gonna stop because it is what I love to do, and it is kind of what drives me and makes me happy and excited and passionate.
Right.
So I think that is the key.
Right. It was a shock when George Michael, passed away. I remember crying and being like, he touched our lives. We grew up with his music. Like, I remember having high times and then going into dark times with his music.
Right.
He really was there for us through his music. It was,
Of course.
So it must be such an honor.
Yes, it's totally an honor. And like I said, the more that I kind of learned about him, the more I'm hearing it, it's like, oh my gosh, it was such an honor to be, playing such a beloved character and portraying someone who's real as well, getting down to the dialect and the movement and, of course, the British accent and his movements on stage. And there was a performance scene. So I only had about a week to prepare. I booked the role, and then they flew me out to Texas to shoot that week, the week
Wow.
later. So I was just doing as much as I can in terms of watching any sort of YouTube interviews. Interviews really is kind of how I would get down the dialect, and then of course any sort of live performances. There's a fun performance scene. I'm actually performing Freedom 90, the song he did at Rock in Rio in the 90s, and then but yeah, it's dubbed over a bit with narration, so you'll see me performing, but luckily it's not mine. So
let me tell everyone where they can see the show and find and follow your journey.
Of course. So the show will premiere on Reel's channel later this month, and I'll give you guys that exact date when the network releases it. And I'm on Instagram, Casey Dolkas.
Amazing.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
bro.
thank you. Thank you guys for having
Stay
me.
tuned. We'll be right back.